I am Clayton Rutschow. I am a BFA acting major here in the theater department. I'm a senior, and I'm playing Odysseus. Odysseus is the king of Ithaca, the master in all ways of contending, and he is the one who he's been cursed by Poseidon and never reaches home until things get reconciled. And then, so he's in this faraway land, or lands that actually he goes off in the beginning to go fight in Troy, and fights in Troy for 10 years, and then for 10 more years he's roaming about the city trying to get home.
My name's Steffen. I'm a junior musical theater major, and I'm playing the part of Athena. Athena is the main storyteller in this show. She has made it her mission to get Odysseus back home from Troy and all of his adventures. And she's kind of the instigator. She makes things happen in the storyline so that Odysseus can get home. And she, during the course of that, becomes all of these different characters. I think seven different characters, to make the story happen. So she is just this goddess interfering with all these humans' lives to bring Odysseus home.
I'm Megan Volkman-Wilson. I'm playing Penelope, Odysseus' wife. She is Queen of Ithaca. She is in just turmoil throughout the course of this story because her husband sailed off for Troy, and they have a very, very close relationship. She's left with her son Telemachus, played by Andy Gullickson, and her court, her servants, and for years and years she's awaiting Odysseus' return. And within the past 4 years, suitors from islands all over have come to her court to try and win her hand. Everyone in the area is convinced that Odysseus is dead. He's gone. Penelope's main struggle is trying to convince herself that he's still alive, and is somewhat successful by the time the story concludes. So she's a very tortured character throughout the show, and you just kind of root for her and Odysseus to find each other in the end. That's her main purpose. I participated in Lysistrata. I was in the cast, but didn't really have a speaking role. I was just a singer in that show. So this is my actual first straight play that I've had lines in here. I do a lot of musicals. Yeah, no, huh? I'm a musical type girl, but so that in and of itself makes it very different. Also, usually with a musical nature, the big spectacular main stage shows that we do tend to be very presentational. All musicals aren't like that, especially what we do in the studio season. But most of the shows that I've done, Maine, Damn Yankees, Chicago most recently, 42nd Street, are all very spectacular and presentational. And my role in this show, there are some of those aspects in the Odyssey, but the role of Penelope is very representational, very character interaction based. It's more of an intimate kind of character rather than, she doesn't address the audience. Yes. And that's been very challenging. Working with the language, working with so much of the language, and throwing that back and forth and making it colorful and interesting has been a challenge, but a good challenge.
For me, this is my first classical show ever. So again, adjusting to the language and making it accessible to the audience has been challenging. Also, another aspect of this show is all the physical movement, because the show itself is just a base. We add so much to this show to make it the performance that we will have. I mean, there's movement, there's spectacular lights and sounds and costumes and images. And so the movement especially has been really interesting because I'm a dancer, but it's not a dance show. We're not dancing, but it's very movement based. So that's been real neat, just getting used to that.
It's a classic. The adaptation has been, we were just talking about the dramatization of it. The original was written very third-person narrative, and this show is, the main characters, our characters particularly, have a lot of first person. You get into the minds of the characters. You get to see them feeling the things that they're feeling about what's going on in the show, rather than just a narration of what's happening to them.
Yeah.
So that's what makes it different from, I don't know, other productions of the Odyssey, or maybe could make it different from what people would expect it to be.
Okay.
And you actually get to interact with the audience. You get to look at them. There's some characters get to break that fourth wall and just bring them into the world that we create. That's always fun.
Like Kim said, that's very movement based. There is a lot of spectacle. There's a huge chorus of players that play multiple roles, including enchanted animals and monsters, and that's all done not choreographed, but very movement based. Like it's a giant monster. It's a compilation of bodies, for instance. It is very, I don't know, bodily based. There's just so much.
Very physical.
Yeah, physical. It's so physical, and that adds. I mean, there are things that color it, like the lights and the sounds that kind of tie everything together. But a lot of that is done by the actors.
Yeah.
Okay, what are your expectations for the production? Do you have any, I don't know.
I think it's going to be incredible.
Yeah.
I do. Within the first couple weeks of rehearsal, the whole cast, the ensemble is amazing. They do so much. They play hundreds of characters, and it's just a lively, exciting story.
Yeah.
It's just a great story told in a very vivid way. And I think I do think it's going to be unexpected. I think a lot of people think classical theater and Greek is like dull and boring, or they think it's going to be stale, and it's not stale at all. I mean, it's active, it's live, it's colorful, it's striking, and very engaging.
Okay.
So the sense of play is just so. This play just exudes that. It's like, I don't know, you just get to go out there and see all the actors. Everyone's going to be having so much fun just because there's so much to do. And I mean, it's not just about the spectacle either. It's how everyone lives, breathes, eats this world. It's really nice. So and then whether that's being the animal, or whether you're being a god, or whether you're being a soldier or a sailor or anything like that, it's really cool how everything just gets set up and it all comes together.
And that wasn't easy. We talked a lot about the style of the show and everyone being part of the same world, because when you have a group of characters in one world playing the text and playing the context differently than the other, it's discongruent and it's hard to follow. But we as an ensemble had to work on all keeping in with the same style of the show, and I think that everyone has really, it was a challenge to all accomplish that, but it came together, and now we're in the polishing stages. So I feel like now that we have the time to do that, the next week, I think it'll really come together. We'll have a pretty finished product.
Oh yeah.
Okay. Challenging making this text, which is so poetic. It's beautiful language, but the analogies and metaphors that he uses are hard. It's hard to communicate. I mean, as actors, you really have to focus on what you're saying to the audience, and so they can appreciate the poetic language, but still be aware of what's going on, essentially. So that's been a challenge, I think, is communicating the language to our modern ears.
Well, we still are telling a story too, so you can just read a text, for example, and just kind of go through it at your own pace, but then really imbuing it, as Dr. Hustle said, really to bring every single word to life, to draw everyone into the story that we are telling has been a challenge, but it's been a fun challenge.
And that's something that we're still working on, the principles of it, especially. I mean, the entire ensemble has the challenge of working with the language, because we all have lines. Everyone in the show is such a huge part of it. But I know, for our sakes anyway, we are in large part, maybe not them too as much, you get more action, but my character anyway is mostly in the parts of the show that are scenes, that are just, that are interactions, the speaking chunks, rather than the action, the big monsters and the animals and the fighting and all of that. My character isn't a part of those parts of the show. So, in those times, our job really is to make those scenes as exciting and as colorful as the action, so that you get a really dynamic show that you don't just flatline when you come to the scenes, which can, really, really knock an audience member out of the world of the story. So that, I think, is something that we're still polishing in these last stages.